Historians throw water on comparisons of Trump to Andrew Jackson. Washington, Dan Feller doesn't know Donald Trump. He does know Andrew Jackson, at least as well as you can become acquainted with someone who has been dead for close to 200 years. For all of the comparisons between the current commander-in-chief and the nation's seventh president, Donald Trump is no Andrew Jackson, said Feller, a history professor at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I'm kind of astonished by it, Feller said of the Trump as Jackson trending narrative. I see virtually no resemblance between Jackson and Trump. Trump certainly is embracing the ghost of Old Hickory. Upon moving into the White House last month, the new president hung a portrait of Jackson in the Oval Office. Now, whenever Trump signs executive orders at his desk or hosts a photo op with world leaders, Jackson observes the proceedings from his place of honor high on the wall. Trump is far from the only person to see parallels between himself and Jackson. Members of his political team have been spinning the storyline for months that he is sort of a modern-day Jackson, an outsider who took on the political establishment and rode into Washington to return power to the people. But that theme is based on a foggy image of Jackson rather than the real Jackson, said Feller, director of the Papers of Andrew Jackson, a project that is working to collect and publish the seventh president's entire existing literary record. We think of Jackson as a guy who walks into Washington with a pistol on his hips and starts shooting, Feller said. He wasn't. Jackson was indeed a populist in his day. Jackson believed fervently that he represented the common man, said Howard Kittle, president and chief executive officer of the Andrew Jackson Foundation in Nashville. Those were his origins. The son of Scots-Irish farmers, President Jackson was from very humble origins and pulled himself up by his bootstraps, Kittle said. President Trump, from everything I've read, came from a family that had a good social and financial position that he has built upon. Jackson may not have had the background of a diplomat or statesman, as the young nation's previous presidents did. But a political outsider he was not. By the time he entered the White House in 1829, he'd already had a distinguished military career, worked as a district attorney, served on the Tennessee Supreme Court and had represented the volunteer state in both the U.S. House and Senate. Despite Jackson's lasting reputation as an aggressive, no-nonsense, I'll do things my way kind of guy, that's not how he conducted his presidency, Feller said. In reality, Feller said, Jackson had shed his rough frontiersman ways before entering the White House and, as president, was polished, courtly and even polite. Jackson's modern-day detractors point out that he was a slave owner and ordered the removal of Native Americans from their land in a bloody campaign that came to be known as the Trail of Tears. But in terms of foreign relations, he was remarkably pacifist, not the brash-talking, fist-shaking, America First contrarian that Trump seems to embody, Feller said. While Trump has spent the first couple weeks of his presidency threatening to undo trade deals negotiated by the Obama administration, Jackson was immensely proud of his achievements in negotiating treaties that opened up the rest of the world to American trade, Feller said. And what of that Jackson portrait now hanging in the Oval Office? It's part of a large White House collection and was painted around 1835 by Ralphie W. Earl, a close friend of Jackson. Earl painted other portraits of Jackson's friends and family, including his niece, Emily Tennessee Donaldson, who served as White House hostess during Jackson's administration, said art historian William Kloss. It's a somber picture, Kloss said. But in that era, all of them are somber.